Recording now. Okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to the info session about transferring to the Rennes School of Business in France. SMCCD, we have a transfer and articulation agreement with the Rennes School of Business since 2019. And today I have a few guests with us. We have Caroline Joannin from the Rennes School of Business in France, and Monica Medina, also an alumni and now a staff of Rennes School of Business in France. And then we also have a couple of alumni from SMCCD. We have Laurel Lujan from Skyline, who graduated from Rennes this past year. And we also have Angelo Domagas, a Skyline alumni as well, who graduated from Rennes. So we'll start the session with Caroline and Monica. They will have a presentation about the program at Rennes. And then we will pass the mic over to Laurel and Angelo to share a bit about their experience. And then we'll have time for questions as well at the end. And as again, in the meantime, if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it throughout the hour today. So, all right, with that, I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Caroline and Monica, and you should be able to share your screen. Let me know if you have any trouble.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you for organizing this info session. We are very happy to be here today, and I'm glad to see Angelo and Laurel as well on that session. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys after to see what you've been doing since you graduated. I won't talk much on my side. I will leave the virtual floor to my dear colleague, Monica. She presents the school so well. She's been there. She's a student. So I let her do the work. And of course, I'll be here for any question that all of you may have. So Moni, your turn. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for making this event happen, and thank you all for your assistance. Also, Laurel, Angelo, thanks for coming. I know your comments and your experience, sharing this experience will be great for the new students that are willing to come to our school. So before I get started, yes, as Stephanie says, I'm an alumni from the school. I did my master in international marketing at that time. And right now I work for the for Rennes School of Business in the Americas. So I want today to talk a little bit about the school, why it's cool to live in France and to study in France, some advantages that you will have while you live in France. And of course, this great opportunity and agreement that we have with Skyline in order for you to come and enjoy and have this experience. So why study in France? France has different facts in order for you to make a decision and why should I go to France. Some of them are the tuition rates are very attractive in France. The quality in higher education is also very, very good. It's actually in France is one that has one of the most quality in terms of education. Opportunities in research and development is done in France as well. And you know that also France is one of the economic power around the world. It's located in 4th place. If France has home leading international corporations, maybe you know some of them like Airbus, Total, Orange, L'Oreal, Louis Vuitton, Danone, Chanel, among others. Also, the young talent is well valued in terms of entrepreneurship sectors, innovation sectors. So this is good because sometimes when you're going somewhere else, you think you need to have a lot of experience, but actually here they really appreciate this young talent with new ideas. So it's really, really cool. French style, you probably know about the culture, how the art, the gastronomy. It's very, very outstanding in France. And last but not least, the French language is the 3rd most common business language in the world. And with English is the only language that is spoken in the 5 continents. So this is also good for you to know. And France is also an appealing destination for students who don't want to get to know this great city as Paris, Lyon, Monaco, and others. So why France? Or what is the difference sometimes in studying in a public university and a grand école? When you study in a public university, they have like state funded. A grand école has private funding. When we are picking students on a grand école is getting good students, they have a very selective process, which means there is an application to do. There is also an interview that you will do with your program director. So they really are looking for great students. Also, courses are taught in English, most of them. Our cohorts are very small in order for do it more customized, and you can talk to your professor if you want. In a public university, there are big cohorts, and sometimes it's really hard to get in touch with your colleagues or with the professors. And last, we have strong links with the industries in terms of finding an internship, or maybe if you want to find a job later. We have a special place for you to receive all these tools in order to get your internship. Why Brittany? Brittany is the region where Rennes School of Business is located. As you can see in the images, it's a beautiful place. It has beautiful landscapes. People go to hiking. It's a very touristic place. Gastronomy, as you can see in the pictures, but I prefer you to taste it yourself. Food is delicious. Maybe Laura can talk a little bit about the food and the great experience that they have. And if you like seafood, actually the region of Brittany is the one that produced 80% of the seafood for the region. So this is a cool fact to know. We have also a great place. It's called Mont Saint-Michel. I'm sure you're gonna visit it. It's here in the left side. It's a castle just like surrounded by an island, and it's pretty. I know it's a place that you're gonna love to visit, and it's in the region of Brittany. And Rennes is the capital of the region of Brittany. We are 1 hour and 25 minutes away from Paris by train, which is very convenient if you want to visit the capital. We have an airport that can take you to different places such as London, Barcelona, Amsterdam. We have Saint-Malo, which is a beach, very, very close to the school as well. And Mont Saint-Michel, the castle that I was talking about, is around 1 hour away. If you tell me as a student how I feel the city, it was a very secure, kind place. Also very, I don't know, I feel like I can walk at 3 in the morning and nothing will happen, but it's also a very vibrant place. Actually, it's a college city. So there is always something to do, either during the day, during the night, but it's a place that even though it's not as big as California, but it's a place that you're gonna feel very comfortable all the time. People are very nice. They always will be willing to help you. But of course, this information, I'm gonna let the students talk about this experience. When we talk about Rennes School of Business, first of all, I want to tell you that we are a triple crown, which means we have 3 accreditations that will guarantee you a great education with the best quality, best professors. These 3 accreditations are the EQUIS, the AACSB, and the AMBA. And of course, as you can see in the right side, we have different rankings, not only in France, but also around the world, and not only the school, but some other programs or master programs that we have. But besides having this triple crown being quite modern, the school also have something a great added value, which is the international students. 55% of our students are international. Not only the students, but also the faculty. 95% of the faculty are from other parts of the world. Some of them don't even speak French. So having this experience of living in a place full of different cultures, but after you leave the school, you have this experience of living this French life is very unique. Here you can see some images of our campus. As you can see, it's quite modern. Sometimes we think France is old, but no, here is a a good place for you to see that we have very cool and modern places. And about the opportunity that I wanted to tell you about is that you can transfer to Rennes School of Business and get your international bachelor program in management in 1 year. And how does it work? You have to do your 2 years at SMCCD. I don't know if it's too long to say, or I just say Skyline. Get your associate degree, and then move to Rennes School of Business, do 1 more year, and after that you obtain your bachelor degree. We guarantee transfer of credit. I know it sounds really interesting to know more about this program, because as you can see, it's less time. But let me tell you that in this year, you always be able to get a specialization. You can either choose between finance and banking, marketing, purchasing, and supply chain. You also will have the chance to have 2 hours of French courses per week. So this also will help you to improve your French language and get 1 more language to your checklist. So this is very cool. Our calendar, basically, we have our next module in September 2021 to April 2022. We have a bachelor dissertation, and you also will have to do an internship of around 8 weeks, which means you will also have your international work experience. And you maybe might be asking to yourself, okay, why it's less time than in the US? Usually when you transfer to a university in the US, it takes 2 more years. And basically the main reason is because since the beginning, you will be taking business classes. So as you can see, maybe I did my bachelor's in the US, and I took maybe some elective classes that were not related with business or what I wanted to get my degree. And basically that's the main reason. But in terms of quality and courses are going to be very the same. If you probably say, okay, 2 hours of French is not enough for me, we also have an additional French courses that you can pick according to the time that you want to spend on getting these new languages or the budget that you have. And the more interesting thing here is, or the thing that we sometimes think about it, is the price. How much is going to cost? Here you can see tuitions will be $10,000 per year. And here we can do a little comparison between US universities. Usually the average of out of the state tuition is $25,000. And if you multiply that by 2, because it's 2 years, usually it's going to be around $50,000. So it's quite a lot of money and quite investment. Here, if we compare to Rennes School of Business, you're only going to spend $10,000. And of course, the length is less, it's 1 year, which is going to make the same $10,000 a total cost. Also, you can apply for our financial aid. We have agreement with FAFSA, so you're able to do it if you're an American. And also you can apply for our talent or on-frame or solidarity scholarship that are up to 2,000 euros. So besides getting the federal financial aid, you'll also be able to apply to our scholarships. The only requirement is that you need to be accepted before you apply to these scholarships. So if you, to resume this great opportunity, you will save time, you will save money, you will have the American Accreditation AACSB, which is going to guarantee all the credits back home. And you will have your academic, professional, and international experience. And later, if maybe you want to pursue, you can do your master's degree with an automatic scholarship with us. So this is also important. Usually in France, it's a little bit different that here in the Americas, that you complete your bachelor's, then you work a little bit, and then you think about your master's. Well, in France, usually they go straight and do their master's degree. That's the main, that's wise. Some important figures that I want to give it to you is that 82% of the students have already an offer job or a full-time employment before they get their degree. 75% of the graduates in jobs are involved in international business. Of course, 100% of the students have this international experience. And we have an alumni of, well, this is not updated, we just updated, but we have around 22,000 students around the world. You remember when I was telling you in the beginning about these strong links that we have with the industry? I was talking about this part. We do have a career service center that is going to give you all the tools in order for you to find the right internship for you. Ideally, the idea is that you can stay abroad and have this international experience. And how they do it? Well, they're gonna help you with your CV if you want to make it better in English, or if you want to do it in French. Of course, right now it's very trendy to have your LinkedIn very attractive for the industries. We're gonna help you to create your own personal branding, do interview simulations. We're gonna do different workshops for you to be ready for the interviews. And also we have different events, such as the corporate days, job datings, which are events that are created for companies that recruit students in that moment. And we do have alumni days. So this is also important for you to come to these kind of events, assist, try to do your best. Don't be like, okay, I can do it another day. My advice is to try to assist to this kind of events, because are very, very good for you in order to get these internships. I'm not gonna go very into it to our master's degree, but we do offer 15 different programs. Most of them are taught in English as well. You will have an experience to have a winter session, which is living 2 weeks abroad and have a course taught in a different European country, which is also a very cool experience. And in terms of visa applications, we're gonna help you with all the paperwork or all the letters that you need to present in Campus France and in the embassy. In terms of looking for accommodations, we have a team that is dedicated to reply to all of your questions in order to find a place in Rennes. We do have residents on campus, and we have a platform similar to Airbnb in order for you to find the best place in Rennes according to your necessities. In terms of the admission procedure, first thing that you need to do is to have the okay by Skyline, that you have your associate degree, and then apply to our website. The idea is that you upload your documents such as your transcripts, your passport. We're gonna ask you for one reference, and there's one motivation part. Those are the mainly things that we need for you. After that, you're gonna face an online interview that is going to be saw or reviewed by your program director. And once you're done with that, we're gonna send you all the admission letters in order for you to come to Rennes. So the process might take around 3 weeks. Since you're already taking English classes, and I know your English is perfect, you don't need to take the English proficiency test. But it's also for you good to know that you will have to take the French classes. Why? Because when you're in Rennes, you are in France. The idea is that you learn a little bit of this language, that you can go to the grocery store or to a restaurant and being able to order what you like. I think Laura can give you some experience about how her French was in that, or Angelo in that time, and how maybe they improved their French. But this is also important for you to get this language. French sometimes are not very good with languages, sorry, Caro. And if we make their life better, so they will really appreciate that you try to learn their language while you're living in there. Another question that the students ask the most is, okay, how much is going to be the cost of living in Rennes? It's around 600 to 800 euros per month. This includes what is accommodation, food, and transportation. But you can also take into account that there are some benefits from the government that will help you to, for example, pay your accommodation. One of them is called CAF, that they give you around 50 to 180 euros per month in order for you to pay your rent, which is really cool. We have also restaurants for students that, for example, lunch can cost around, well, in my time was 3 euros, but now a student told me that it's 1 euro, so it's even better. So you can find lunch without entry, your dessert, your dish with 1 euro, it's perfect. And the transportation, it's around 32 euros, which you will have unlimited access in the metro, in the bus. But if you like to ride bike, that's also another option. Sometimes when we go to a different countries, we are afraid of how it's going to be this experience, but we're trying to make your life easier. And this place is also a place that is going to help you to do all those things that sometimes you don't know who to ask when you arrive to a new country. For example, opening a bank account, having your own mobile phone, get your car for public transportation. So this place is going to be there for you in order to help you to solve all these questions. We also have a welcome team, but I'm gonna let Angelo and Laurel to talk about it because I think they have a recent experience with them, but they are really, really cool students that are willing to help the new students that are coming by doing different activities. And well, I invite you to follow us on our social media. We actually have one that is called Take Me to Rent.sb. That is an Instagram account made by students. So you can see their daily life. You can ask them any question that you need and they'll be willing to help you in everything. Even though if it's questions regarding how you can see your classes or maybe how you can get settled in Rennes, they'll be able to help you. So this is all my part that I wanted to say. I really know that you're looking forward to listen to our alumni and as many questions as you want. Of course, I'm gonna be here to answer if you have any questions for the school. Here are our emails, Caroline and myself. So thank you for your time and I'm really looking forward to see you in Rennes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Caroline. I'll put their email addresses in the chat as well in a moment, so you can copy and paste them as well. So I want to pass the mic off in just a moment to our alumni, but before I do that, I put in the chat that I also wanted to share a couple other scholarship opportunities. Monica mentioned a couple. She mentioned applying for FAFSA. So you can apply for FAFSA for a federal loan through Rennes. Rennes is an international school that is part of the U.S. Department of Education's federal loan program. So that would be part of the process. But another couple of scholarships, let me share my screen here. I wanted to make sure I mentioned two other opportunities. The first is the Gilman Scholarship. There we go. So the Gilman Scholarship is a scholarship through the U.S. Department of State. It is a scholarship specifically for study abroad for up to $5,000. We at Skyline Cañada and CSM, our students, quite a few students have received the scholarship. Of those who are eligible and apply, about 50% have been selected, not just for transferring to Rennes, but for study abroad in general. So this is a good scholarship to keep on your radar if you are eligible. As it is through the U.S. Department of State, to apply, you must be a U.S. citizen and must be receiving the federal Pell Grant, either when you apply or when you plan to go abroad. Again, it's up to $5,000. And the deadlines to apply for the Gilman Scholarship, it's always the first Tuesday in March and the first Tuesday in October for the following academic year. So it would be too late to apply for the Gilman for transferring to Rennes this next academic year, this coming fall. However, I think some of you in the room might just be coming for the first time learning. Maybe you're not ready to transfer next year, but you're thinking the following year. The Gilman is a good scholarship to keep on your radar. And our office is happy to help you apply for that. Another scholarship is through the SMCCD Study Abroad office. We apply for various grants throughout the years and do fundraising and what we can to find scholarship funding for students. And so for this coming academic year, we have some funding available. We have 5 scholarships available for $1,000 to transfer to the Rennes School of Business. And this is for the coming academic year. And that amount varies each year depending on what funding we're able to secure for students. But we do try to have some sort of scholarship available each year. And to apply, you must be transferring to the Rennes School of Business. And the deadline is around April or May each year for the following academic year. So this year, you would want to apply by May 7th, Friday, May 7th. And you can apply on this link here. Lavinia's here, which I can also put in the chat for you. And so that's it about scholarships. Just wanted to give you those additional resources. So now I want to pass the mic over to our alumni here. We have one more student who joined us. So we have Angelo, Laurel, and Geron. Geron, I didn't introduce in the beginning, but he is in the master's program at Rennes right now. So he is in France. Angelo and Laura both graduated, so they're back home. So Laurel, Angelo, and Geron, if you could start, I sent you some questions to reflect on yesterday. To begin, if you want to introduce yourself, and if you could share one of the best things, the best experience, the best thing that you loved about studying in Rennes. And then if you can share a challenge that you had, because, going to a country, navigating a new country and a new school, there will be challenges. So we want students to be prepared for both what they can expect and what might be some challenges that they can prepare for, and how you kind of navigated those challenges. So whoever wants to begin, feel free to unmute yourself. And also our participants in the room, feel free to drop questions in the chat, and I'll still be monitoring the chat.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. So my name is Jerron Dow. I'm actually from San Francisco, a San Francisco native. I guess the biggest challenge for me was transitioning into a business program, because I originally did political science. So that was pretty new. Learning a new language, that's pretty new. But one thing that I've definitely enjoyed out here is, of course, the food and being able to travel. I know right now, we have the lockdown. It's not too much different than San Francisco. So that's sort of preventing us from traveling abroad. But we have been able to travel around throughout France. We went to St. Malo not too long ago, and we went to a medieval town just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, being able to get out, see new places, see a lot of old history, the food, of course, the people. One thing I have enjoyed is my classmates. Everyone is from different places. The main language, though, the courses are all taught in English, so that's pretty cool, with the exception of our French class, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, at the moment, at least.
Thank you, Geron. And Duran, you just started this semester, right? So that you're in your first semester in the program. You started in January.
Yep.
Great. So we'll look forward to hearing more as you progress throughout the year.
Hi, my name is Laurel Lujan, and yes, I'm an alumni like Angelo. I think I'm going to start with the good. The best times I had was the fact that the classes were challenging, which I do love because I get bored easily. And the best thing about these challenging classes was being able to be friends with international students and learning about their different cultures. It always came up in different weird times, even when hanging out. So you're basically immersed into a whole nother world. So if you're not used to traveling, you're going to get not just French culture, you're going to get all types of cultures, Moroccan, Cambodian, like everybody's around the world. You're just going to get a taste of everything. But I will say the challenging part for me was finances, in terms of just the fact that you have to make sure you're on top of it. Don't overspend, don't live above your budget. But also it is possible though to get around that challenge is by working. So it is quite possible to actually get a job there, especially by teaching English. Wasn't there one more? Oh, right. The last question. I would say my best advice is to keep in touch with the faculty and staff. They will always have suggestions to help you, maybe something you could do, and they could actually help you with anything. You just need to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be shy. They probably have resources that you never knew they had.
Thank you so much, Laurel. That is some great advice. And Jaron, thank you for sharing your experience too. Before I move, I have Angelo speak. Carlos had a good question. He's asking if the classes are offered remotely due to the pandemic. And I know that they have been, and there's been some hybrid. Monica or Caroline, if you could speak a little bit to that of kind of what it's looking like now. I know France is in another lockdown. What is the situation and what are the plans for the next coming months? And then I do want to get to Angelo, but I want to make sure I answer that important question.
Sure. So we are in a not that strict lockdown because actually universities are open. So the campus is open right now. Students are able to come and take classes. So how we do is, as you said, it's on an hybrid model. So we have students that are online following the classes from their home. And then we have students that are coming on campus. So there is a rotation because we cannot accept all of them on campus because there are some restrictions to follow due to COVID-19. But classes are offered on campus and online. So by September, we never know how it will be. So I don't want to say something that won't happen, but we are confident, with the vaccination campaign going on and all that classes will be fully on campus, but we will still keep doing the eLive format, meaning that if we have international students that are not able to join us, they will be able to follow the classes online until they are able to join us. Because of course, the idea is for you guys to come on campus and really live the full experience. But if for some reason due to the sanitary crisis you are not able to, you will be able to start following the classes online.
Great. Thank you so much, Caroline, for answering that question. So Angelo, I'll pass the mic off to you now. If you want to share something that you really loved, something that was challenging, and then some advice you have for students.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Angelo. I grew up in San Francisco. And then when I was a freshman, I moved to Daly City. So I've been in San Mateo County for the past 9 years now. So I graduated last year. Yes, so part of their 2019-2020 cohort. And I specialized in supply chain and purchasing. So if you don't know what that is, it's mostly like just logistics, taking care of everything that's going on including like stocks and operations within a company. Moving to France, I didn't know any French, so Like I was zero in French, and now I'm like getting there. I would say intermediate. I'm learning a little bit more every day. I hit that 300-day streak on Duolingo, so we got that going on. But yeah, I would say the whole, like, just being an international student in a different country was a first for me. I was part of like 2 other study abroad internships before, one with Skyline, one with my work. So I was okay with that, like being out for about 2-3 months in a different country was cool. But being out for me, it was about 1.5 years. I just came back in March. And because of the pandemic, so being in France for that long, it was really interesting to like just learn about the culture. What Laurel and Jaren said was true. You're going to be in a class with all other internationalities, and for me, I was the only American in my supply chain group. And we were a small group, we were like 15, 16 people, but it was an amazing experience. We got really close to each other, and they're all from different countries too. So you get that bond, I would say, with being or surrounded by other international students. And I would say as well, being an international student could be hard at times because you pay higher fees. Also finding housing, like signing up for CAF, even making friends sometimes could be hard because you're just not used to your surroundings and everything. Like, especially for me, like I grew up in California. I know California, but coming to France, I didn't know anything about it until I started like meeting new people, and then we all go out or study or just have, times where we just like connect as students and, go through it together. Yeah, so I'm rambling on right now. I would say a tip is to learn as much French as you can because you are in France, and they're not as forgiving when it comes to learning, or when it comes to speaking English. So it was cool. Like I had a girlfriend there, and she would help me a lot. If you're not gonna learn French, then find someone who does know French because they will help you out a lot. So definitely learn as much French as you can because those will get you connections beyond like just school, beyond mostly just like living in France and stuff. So yeah.
Can I add something, Stephanie and students? Hi, my name is Lavinia Zanassi, and I have been working with Stephanie and the students. And hi, Jaron, nice to see you, and Laurel, and obviously also Angelo. I wanted to say something that I think is really important because in my counseling interactions with students, they come to me and many have hesitations about this experience because they either may not have traveled or have traveled, and this is a completely different experience for them because it's living within a particular culture that they, as Angelo said, may not be as familiar with. Not to feel in any way hesitant that you may not be able to speak the language because it is an English speaking program. It's wonderful if you have an understanding of the language, of course, but I think Laurel, Angelo, and Jaron, do you feel that the language was in any way a barrier? I think that I'm assuming, and you guys can correct me, the opposite would be true, that it enlarges your view of the world. Because I always tell my students, Americans, we are sort of full of ourselves. And Monica and Caroline, you might agree with this. America is all this and that, but there are other cultures that can teach us in many ways how limited our perspective and that the world is greater, larger, and much more old in terms of survival And so that's what I think students gain beyond and above the actual subject that you're learning. But it's about the culture. It allows you to become, I think, more of a universal citizen. And that's, to me, a very important component.
I guess I'll jump in here. I mean, in my experience, I learned a language like most people in the United States in high school, and that was basic French. And it wasn't a great experience, to be honest, because whatever you learn in class in America, chances are do not apply in other countries, especially the way they use current terms, words, etc. But I kept up with French for years on Duolingo. Hey, Duolingo fan club here. But once I got to France, I got to put it in practice. I feel like I was a little bit ahead in terms of at least being able to read and ask very, very basic questions of French to get around. But then again, the other part, I remember I was talking to Kaylee Lonnie, who's part of the program, I think, where I said, it's easier to travel abroad if you're naturally a lone wolf like me. Angela would know, I didn't have many friends in France, but I had a close-knit group. I could rely on them. And I still wasn't afraid to be friends with my international group, my whole class, because what you're going to find if you do enter your international class, whatever major you are, because I was in marketing and business management, you only have maybe a handful of native French students, and the rest literally are international students who either spoke French and or only spoke English as a second language. And you just have to push yourself to be friends with people. I'm not saying you need best friends, but you need to make the effort. So it's either you're okay with being alone, but you can still socialize, or you find your own niche group of people. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and figure out who you really belong with, if that helps.
I would say that, yeah, the stereotype is true that Americans are full of themselves. When you go to a different country, like, you will be humbled by the ability of other students that could speak more than just English. And some even speak 3-4 languages, and they're really fluent. So you will get that humbleness towards you in terms of how Americans perceive themselves. And yeah, I definitely, coming back here, I would say that I look at those people, the international students, I'm just like, you shouldn't like look at yourself as an American, just as an American, you know. There's so much more to people than that. So I'm trying to gain more international experience through that. And from there, I would like to just become more fluent in general, more international. I wouldn't know what to say. I'm sorry.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Laurel and Angelo, for sharing your experience. And Jerron, thank you so much. I have a couple questions that came in the chat that I'd like to put out for Carlene, Monica, Laurel, John, or Angelo. And then I might come back to the conversation with y'all. We have a question about the actual degree. And so the question is, how competitive is it to obtain a position in your respective industry compared to other graduates from renowned universities in the States? And I know that Rennes School of Business is triple accredited, and it is the equivalency of a bachelor's. And then in terms of, because this program is new for us, we don't have a ton of students who have yet come back, so we don't have those statistics in the States. But Monica and Carlene, if you have any additional information about, or Lavinia, if you have any input on this about, you know, coming back with the degree from Rennes School of Business versus, you know, from UC San Diego or whatever university in the States. If you could share some of that input.
If I can sort of begin the conversation on that, is that I always tell students, yes, the location of your degree is important, but far more important is how you're able to communicate the fact that you have gained not just the book learning, but also this overall awareness of how you can take that, professional development and apply it in a particular work environment. Anybody who has received international education, whether you are a student who is from France, from English, from the US, if you've studied abroad, it's always a positive. It's learning how to convey that to the prospective employer, because you have gained, as I said before, the cultural awareness, the communication awareness, the ability to have a wider perspective of problem solving and decision making, that you have had to handle a circumstance where you've learned how to make do, in a sense, or to have an alternative way of completing a task. So those are all the kinds of skills that I think you need to convey in an interview. Above and beyond that, students feel sometimes they'll say to me, well, if I go to France, or if I go to England, or if I go to Italy or Hong Kong and learn something, do I come back with, you know, sort of a gold star on my resume? And I say, you know, your resume and your skill set is only as good as you are able to defend it and to explain it. So what I hope students will do, and I know that Laurel and Angelo, and I'm certainly Jaron currently, are learning to expand their own vocabulary, not necessarily in another language, but even in the English language, the primary language upon which they will be relying to convey in an interview. So the confidence issue is a secondary one that I think is very important also, that when you are traveling and you have had to live someplace, you learn to adapt. And that flexibility is all about self-advocacy. And I tell students, when you are in an interview, you want to have a conversation with someone so that you can share with them how you have solved issues that are not run-of-the-mill. And therefore, you would be an advantage. You would be somebody that they would love to have on their team because you think outside the box. So all of those aspects. Now, students in my career counseling interactions, they want to have a guarantee that they will have a job. No one can give you a guarantee. Even those of us that have jobs, we don't have a guarantee that we may be here next year. So I tell students, it expands your horizons, and that in and of itself should be a really important aspect to you wanting to gain experience. And you are always much more employable when you have experience, I feel, that is international. Laurel, Jaron, or any of you that would like to add, Zed?
This reminds me especially about, as you guys know, the internship part, right? And then even before you have the timeline to look for an internship, often the advice you'll get from the counselors or any other student is that you're more likely to find an English speaking internship in the Paris area, not just Paris alone, but the Paris area, only because they're more willing to hire people who are English natives. That is one of the challenges you might bump into unless you are a linguist and you're able to pick up French very fast. Or maybe you might be able to find an internship or a job, I should say that too, in Rennes, or maybe in our own native country, the United States of America. But just keep it in mind that I think one of the barriers I think that's hard to get past is, like, you know, the languages. Because again, France is a beautiful country. It's a very rich culture and everything else. Yes, you may find more people who speak English in the Paris area and in Rennes, but you may not find that anywhere else. So be prepared that might be the biggest question they may ask you. Yes, you have the credentials. Yes, you could actually, as you said, Lavinia, communicate, especially that's what you're going to be doing too, communicating in your cover letters, right? You're advertising yourself, saying, I've been here, here, here. This is what I learned. This is how I applied it. And as you said, Angela, too, it is a humbling experience. That is very true, too, because I'm never going to toot my own horn and say I know French. No, barely. I get around just enough. That's it. But again, it's about where you are, being realistic, but still try it. Don't give up just because it's a language barrier. You never know what networking skills you might have or people you may know. So again, all because you don't have something doesn't mean you can't try. I hope that makes sense.
I think getting an international degree is very useful for if you want to work outside the US. If you're going to work within the US, then they're going to look at US degrees as more favorably. But I would say that in general, if you're getting a degree outside the US, people will still look at it as equal as getting a degree from your country. And that's what I want to do too. In the future, I would like to either do masters abroad, or I would like to work abroad And I think by getting this international business degree specifically is going to help me when I do apply for jobs in the future.
I just want to add to something that Angelo said. I think it depends on how you convey the education that you have received. I don't necessarily think that you may be seen less than someone who's gotten a degree in the United States. I always feel that international exposure trumps some of the even more elite or selective universities because you show that you have gained in your personality and your competence. Because again, it's not all about us. So it's how you communicate it. So thanks.
Thank you all. Yeah. And I just in my experience with, cause I was abroad when I was an undergrad and have a lot of friends who were as well. And some of them who got their masters abroad. And that was looked favorably as long as it is accredited, which Rennes School of Business is a triple crown accredited college, university, and it is the equivalency of a bachelor's degree. But again, you do need to make sure that that's known and communicated. And maybe some employers, it's potential that some are like, oh, well, we know Stanford. And maybe there is some there because it is known. But overall, I think I know a lot of people who do work in various areas and various employment and who do have their degrees from abroad. But again, it's how it's communicated.
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt again, but
yeah.
I have many students that come to me from international.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos, you can support me, I think, in this. I thought I saw you somewhere here. Yes, there you are. They say UC, I want to go to Cal, because that's what they hear. That's what they know. But everybody knows that. Everybody knows Yale and Stanford and UCLA. It is your duty and obligation to share and to educate others as to what you have gained. Mm-hmm. Because the Stanfords and the UC Cal and the Cals and the Berkeleys and so on, as I said, the UCLA, they may get you in, but the moment you start to open your mouth, you will be evaluated on how you can present your skill set. So just remember that, students. The name will get you so far, but it's your character and the way in which you speak and that you have conversations with people to represent what you have learned that will get you through. In most, I would say 90% of the occupational areas.
Yes, thank you. I do have a couple questions here. This one would be more for Caroline or Monica. Alexis asks, do you think it's possible to attend with a family and a pet? Are there housing options available for this situation?
So yes, it is possible. We have from time to time families that are coming. It's a lot of logistics and organization because you have to find the school for the kids in the area, but there are international schools around. So yes, we give you the support. We give you the addresses where you should go to. We have an accommodation service that is here to help you find a place to stay in Rennes according to your criteria. So you will have access to a database with all of the apartments available, private residence, a lot of different options, and then you can do the booking directly through that platform. So there is support from the school. It is possible to come with a family and pet. Then you have to see the visa issue as well. I know it can be a little complex, but it is feasible, that's for sure.
Great, thank you. And another question from Erin, this is more for the students, alumni. How does the level of ease or difficulty of classes in the bachelor's program at Rennes compare to the associate's program at SMCCD?
I think depending on your specialization, I would say for supply chain, I didn't know any supply chain before this. I graduated from Skyline with a business administration degree. But everything transfers over well if you're learning business. The scheduling for For the bachelor's though, it's different from American standards. Like you get your semester schedule and you get that class on that day for the whole semester in the US. But in France, the schedule changes every week. So Mondays, you could have French classes. And then the following Monday, those French classes could turn into just like a supply chain class. And these classes are usually 2 hours long, 2 hours, and then there's like 2 or 3 classes per day. So you tell me if it's difficult to adjust to that type of scheduling compared to the US.
I will add also sometimes classes can run up to 3 hours long. And there's been a couple of times, at least in my experience, I think maybe, I don't know if this happened to you, Angela, where they would make up classes. So let's just say the professor couldn't do the first 2 weeks of school. I remember there was a couple of times I had a 6-hour class, the same class back to back. And that was only because, again, of scheduling difficulties, because I noticed RSB is very flexible when it comes to professors and making sure they can work around that, which is nice. But at the same time for students, it could be strenuous because I am a marketing major. And mind you, my associate's degree was in journalism of arts. So it seems so different, but really in journalism, we do depend a lot on marketing in order to get our funding. So it wasn't too backwards as people think. And I would just say it's just more strenuous. Just get ready to sit down more, maybe stay more organized. Don't think you could just get away with saying, oh, I could skip this class and not miss anything. No, you're going to miss a lot. And again, I think the only thing that's similar is maybe how easy is your professor? Are they easygoing or not? But they still expect a lot, because when you're a person who's transferring abroad as an international student, they expect, well, you work to get there, and now we expect you to work hard because you're just not here to party and mess around. Hopefully not. So again, depends on your personality. Are you in it to win it or just have a good time?
Stephanie, I joined a little late. I was in another meeting, but was the discussion of, examinations at Rennes School of Business discussed? Because when our dean, Russell Walden, and I did the site inspection visit to Rennes a couple of years ago, we were, I think around in the month of April or March, we were in Rennes, and the campus had, all the students were on campus, but it was dead silence. And what we were told was that, examinations were going on. And that is something I felt was very unique and different, that you don't see in a US college or so, where that it was that strict. And I believe, and Caroline or Monica, you can correct me, but there is a greater emphasis on examinations, that professors do just in the syllabus, how it's weighted, the examinations.
Yes, final exams are key. So you probably came around mid-April, and that's when the period of the exam are. And yes, there's a lot of percentage of the grade that goes toward that final exam. So it is a stressful period, but I think that Angelo, Laurel, and soon Jerome will be able to attest better than me. But it is a very important period. It's at the end of December and the end of April. That's when things really are serious at the school.
Can I add on to this? Just to add on to the curriculum. So for the semester, you're going to be doing tests, quizzes. You're going to do a lot of projects too. So you're going to interact with your class a lot of the times. And then to graduate, you would have to do an internship, a dissertation, which is it's like a really long essay.
It's like a research paper.
A research paper.
Yeah.
Something more like that, like Laura said.
Yeah.
And there's something else I forgot.
Projects, which
Mhm.
is group work 9 times out of 10, dissertation, internship,
Finals.
I mean,
Finals.
but that's the thing about finals. Sometimes the final is the group work, depending on your professor. I felt like by the second semester, the professors in the second semester are more focused on seeing how well you work together. But then again, it's a business school. I think that's the whole point. You learn to work in a team, because if you're in a real business environment, it's not just you who fails, the team fails as one. So this is the time for you to figure out what kind of person you are in business. Are you the one who just silently takes the task, or you're going to be the one who leads the group? And it really does give you actually hands-on experience to where you're like, oh, I'm going to be paired with this person who doesn't do any work at all. So you're going to kick them off the team, because that may actually affect your final exam. But usually most professors prepare you by telling you in the beginning of the semester, this is part of your final exam. Please remember it. It's on the syllabus. You have any questions, great. But then it still gives you a lot of responsibility to be on it on your own, like actually pay attention and all that too. But the dissertation, if you do it, I highly suggest that you do it ahead of time. I'm not saying like do it 6 months in advance, but by December, you should actually start researching your question, because they'll make you put in like a whole, what do you call it, Angela? Remember, it was like a piece of paper to show like the whole part, like what your question is, who your sources are, industry.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, so it's really intense. You think it's not a big deal, but they're like, no, what's your question? What's your industry? What's your major? And then they'll tell you if they accept it or not. So this is almost like as if you're getting a PhD or master's, to where if your thing gets rejected, you have to start all over again.
I think that is what PhDs and masters do too.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do a dissertation when you do a master's, PhD. But if you're, even for us getting bachelors, we still had to do it. And I think that helped out a lot, like professionally.
Yeah, I mean, I that's why I'd say with the bachelor's degree in European or French standards, it's much higher than the US in that way, where it's a lot more serious. Like maybe in the US, you could mess around a little bit in your bachelor's year, but usually it's by the master's. You're like, oh, okay, I'm more taking it seriously. But for me, I mean, and other students, I know a lot of students actually failed because they thought they could just do whatever and not take it seriously. But for me, at least, I don't know about you, Angelo, then again, I'm a writer, so I love writing. I decided to go to the librarian and asked her, hey, can I get these sources that are now available on my laptop? And they printed them out for me. They're so sweet, because don't think all because something's not available, you can't get it. Just ask them. And they're actually very happy to know you're taking it seriously. And it's possible to get an A by turning in 10 pages less than they require as well. I mean, I got an A only because I was quality, not quantity.
I would like to add on to that too, that if you do fail class, you get a second chance. Right?
Yes.
They call it second chances, and I'm not really sure how that goes, but I think you take another test or something.
I could attest to that, actually, because you would think there's not much math, but in marketing, there's only one major math class, and that's marketing metrics and theory. And unfortunately, I failed the first time because, again, I struggled with math. So then I had a second chance. I failed that again. But that's the part that they don't tell you. I have to be very transparent about that. When you do the second chance, you have to be on it and try to study as much as you can. And that's where I personally struggled, because I did not get to retake the class. Like I had to re-study my notes and hope for the best. Now the third chance was for 2020. Oh, no, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, to where my old professor was so sweet. I contacted him via email and said, hey, can I get some live videos since we're all in quarantine? He said, sure. And just that alone, I passed my third time. But in the third time, they get to pay for it. So I'm just letting you guys know it does happen. Nobody's perfect. And for me, it took me more than 2 times just to get it. But I don't want to give up, obviously, because what's the point of going away and not getting a double degree? So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Laurel, for sharing. Angelo, Jaron, I just want to be aware of the time. We are 9 minutes over, and I want to be respectful of all of Laurel, Angelo, Jaron, Caroline, Monica, of your time. I'll say we can end the session here, although if more students do have questions, if Laurel, Angelo, or Jerron, Caroline, Monica, if you want to hang around any longer, I'll stay on a bit longer, but I do want to respect everyone's time, especially because I know it's past 8 o'clock in the evening in Rennes. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Those of you who need to log off, please feel free to go ahead and log off. And then I'll still keep the meeting open for a bit longer for those of you who have additional questions.
So I'll have to get back to the group project, but if anyone has any questions, just feel free to email me. You can get my email through Stephanie.
Is it okay if I put your email in the chat, Jerron?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
And I also want to thank the 3 students, Angela, Laurel, and Jerron, because I think students can understand that if you have done it and you put out the effort with all of the fear, hesitation, perhaps, and maybe even limited resources, that it can be done. And I think all of you have come back with a certain amount of gratitude and humility, that I think is important in life, because it makes you a real person. And that's what I hope our students that are interested in it, that you will have doubts, you will have some fears, that's normal, but that you can discuss it with either myself, Stephanie, Zed, even our Dean, Russell Walden, is very open to students, as well as the 3 students that have experienced it and are experiencing it currently. I think if we were to ask any one of them, would you do this again, knowing what you know? I would assume you all would say yes in a split second. Am I right?
Definitely.
I have another question here. Does the bachelor's internship need to happen in France? No, that can happen anywhere, correct?
Yeah,
that's right, Stephanie.
Yes, anywhere in the world.
I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Laurel and Angela, you both really wanted to do your internship in France, but because of the language barrier, you had a hard time finding an internship in France. So you did yours in the US.
Well, that's why I was so quick to say, no, you don't have to. I was very quick to ease everyone's fears, or because in case any of the students need to go home right after the year in France, that's understandable. And especially in COVID, it's a huge thing too. Ours was strictly online, but the only thing was being in France, but online, especially with the 9-hour difference, was that we just had to work with the time difference and being in contact with who our internship supervisor was.
Okay, and then we'll take this last question here. Is there a business and design degree? So the 3 specialization areas for the bachelor's, Caroline or Monica, if you want to talk about those.
Yes, so we have sales and marketing, which is the one that Laurel did. We have supply chain management, which is the one that Angelo did. And the last one is finance, banking and finance. So those are the 3 specializations only at the bachelor degree. We don't have any design degree.
Thank you. Okay, well, so thank you all again for coming. All of those of you who registered, I will send a follow-up email with the contact information, as well as the link if you're planning to apply to Rennes, as well as the link where you can find the scholarship application through SMCCD. If you have any questions until then, feel free to reach out to any of Caroline, Monica, to our office. Jerron gave his email. And yeah, thank you so much and have a good day. I think that's it. And again,
thank
Laurel,
you.
Jerron, Angelo, Monica, Caroline.
Thank you
Thank you
so
all
much
for coming.
Thank you. Hope to see some of you guys back in France. And I see that there is Lorraine Lazalde who will be joining us in September. We've had quite a few contacts already, so I'm very happy that you were able to join the meeting as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.